Hello, welcome back. This is Adrienne with Hamilton Homestead. So there's room in the cheese cave, which means it is time to make cheese. And we will be making Parmesan cheese today. I'm going to make a double batch because of the size of mold I use. I don't have a kettle that's large enough to hold 4 gallons of milk, so I have 2 kettles going, 2 gallons in each. I've already got things started, so I'll get you caught up here. Let's get going. I start by sanitizing all the equipment and work surfaces. Then I rinse the milk jugs so any debris from packaging and transport does not follow the milk into my pot. 2 gallons of 2% milk goes into each pot, and I bring the temperature to 90 degrees. While the milk is warming, I prep the starter cultures and make sure everything I need is ready to go. There are 8 stages to making Parmesan cheese, and the first 2 require about an hour of waiting. So you're not tied to the kitchen and can do a bit of multitasking. But the next 3 stages require pretty much constant attention. The final 3 stages are pretty hands-off, but do have time-sensitive deadlines. I will talk a little bit about each period or stage as we go, and I'll also explain the culture, enzyme, and other additives as I use them. I'm not sure the origin of this phrase, but it definitely rings true. Cheese, the original slow food. We take milk and warm it slowly, then slowly stir the curds and slowly press the wheels, and then patiently wait as it ages to perfection. This definitely describes the cheese-making process. As I mentioned, there are 8 stages to making Parmesan cheese, and to show you how it's made, it's going to take a bit longer than my typical videos. Of course, I edit out waiting periods and as much of the repetitiveness as I can. But for an authentic feel of the cheese-making process, you need a glimpse of each step. So I invite you to relax, sit back with a cup of coffee or tea or a glass of wine, and enjoy this cheese-making process. If you're not inspired to try your hand at cheese-making, you will definitely come away with a greater appreciation for the fine cheeses that are available to us at a moment's notice. One more thing, I have 2 other videos introducing my cheese cave and an introduction to cheese making. I'll put a link to those in the description box. My milk is now at 90 degrees, and I'm going to add calcium chloride to restore the calcium that was lost during the pasteurization. This will give me a firmer curd. It's also time to add lipase. Earlier, I dissolved it in water and let it set for 15 to 20 minutes to fully dissolve and hydrate and become active before I add it to the milk. Now, lipase is a natural enzyme that contributes to the rich, sharp, and they say nutty flavors in aged cheeses like Parmesan. I will gently stir those in before adding the culture. Now, there are 2 types of cultures, thermophilic and mesophilic. The main difference between thermophilic and mesophilic cultures is the temperature they like to thrive in. Thermophilic cultures like higher temperatures and are used for cheeses that require heating like Parmesan, Swiss, and mozzarella. Mesophilic cultures like lower temperatures and are used for cheeses that don't require high heat like cheddar and brie and Gouda. Now, there are many, many different specific strains and blends in each category that are designed for different cheeses. I get my cultures, enzymes, and other supplies from New England Cheesemaking Supply Company, and I'll put a link to their website in the description. And we are now in the first phase, the ripening period. I'm going to sprinkle my culture on the surface of the milk and give it 4 or 5 minutes to hydrate before I gently but thoroughly mix it into the milk. On go the lids, and I will let it ripen or activate for about 35 minutes. Phase 1 is complete, and that was easy peasy. Phase 2 is the coagulation period, where we add the rennet to form a massive curd. Rennet is also a natural enzyme that acts on the milk protein, separating the milk into solids, which is the curd, and whey, which is the liquid. The rennet is dissolved in a little bit of cool water and needs to be evenly dispersed throughout the milk so the curds form consistently. But stirring too vigorously can cause weak or uneven curds. An up and down motion helps mix the rennet. It keeps the milk as undisturbed as possible. I will stir with an up and down motion for 2 minutes, then cover and leave the milk undisturbed for 40 minutes. After 40 minutes, I will check for what is called a clean break, or when the curd has set firm enough that you can insert a knife into the curd at a slight angle, gently lift it, and if the curd splits cleanly and the whey fills the gap, it's ready to cut. If it's soft and gooey, it needs more time to set, and I will give it 5 more minutes and check it again. I have a clean break after 40 minutes and now move on to cutting and scalding, stage 3. Now, this is an important stage as it affects the moisture content and texture and even the final aging characteristics of the cheese. Cutting this massive curd into smaller curds increases the surface area for the curd to expel the whey. Now, this tool I'm using is called a cheese harp, and I use it to make the horizontal cuts. Horizontal cuts can be made using a knife at the right angles. However, I've not mastered that skill, so this cheese harp gets me down the road. I then come back with my curd knife and make the vertical cuts. Now, you don't have to be precise in your cuts, but you should try for a uniform-sized curd. Each cheese variety has its own specific curd size and handling techniques because, like I said, these factors directly impact the moisture content and the texture and the flavor of the cheese. Soft cheeses like brie require large 1-inch curd cuts and gentle handling to retain more moisture, which results in that creamy, spreadable texture that we like. Semi-hard cheeses like cheddar are cut into smaller pieces around 1/2 inch and stirred more actively so more whey is released and you get a firmer texture. For Parmesan cheese, the curds are cut into small 1/4-inch pieces. The smaller the curd, the drier the final cheese will be, which is critical for hard, long-aged cheeses like Parmesan. After the cutting is complete, I gently lift and sort of disturb the curds and let them sit for 5 to 10 minutes to allow the curd to heal. When you first cut the curd, those freshly exposed edges are fragile and can be easily damaged or even break apart. Allowing the curd to sit a few minutes gives the outer surface time to firm up slightly, which is referred to as healing the curd, and it's very important for the stirring and heating process that we're going to do next. Okay, at this point, we're going to increase the heat. This is sitting at 90 degrees right now, and we need to increase it very slowly so that the curd expels the whey at a slow and even rate. If you raise the heat too quickly, you'll have an inconsistent curd and the quality of your cheese is compromised. So this is a very important process of increasing the heat slowly. So what I mean by slowly is like 2 degrees every 5 minutes. So I need to take this from 90 degrees up to 100 degrees, 2 degrees every 5 minutes. So I've got about 25 minutes to very gradually bring this temperature up. So my process is, and maybe there's a better way, I don't know, but this is how I do it. I set my timer for 25 minutes. Then I turn each burner on, medium and medium. Now these are 2 different size burners. I have to really be careful, very carefully watch the temperature. And you'll probably see me swap positions with these pots on these burners because they are different size burners and they heat at a different rate. When I had a gas stove, I really liked making cheese on the gas stove because, you know, when you turn that stove, the gas on, it's on, and when you turn it off, it's off. And it's really nice for making cheese. But, you know, I adapt and work with what I have. You can definitely do this on an electric stove. or a gas stove. So I've got my timer going. It's now sitting at 23 minutes, and I'm going to leave these burners on for another minute. So I will only let them be on for a couple minutes, and then they go off. I'll wait another 5 minutes on my timer, and then I'll turn the burners on for another minute. And I'll do that until my 25-minute period is over and I've reached the 100-degree mark. The first phase of the scalding period, where I slowly raise the temperature of the whey to 100 degrees, is complete. And you can see the size of the curd is much reduced. And now for the second phase of the scalding period. And I will raise the temperature of the whey 3 degrees every 5 minutes until the temperature reaches 124 degrees. This will take about 35 minutes, and I will gently stir the entire time. And at the end of this phase, the curd will be even smaller. Okay, and we are now at the end of the second phase of the scalding period, and the whey is now sitting at 124 degrees. And as you can see, we have a lot of whey. The whey represents about 80 to 90% of the volume of milk, and it has quite a bit of protein in it. It's got a lot of lactose in it. I will take this whey and make ricotta cheese with it. The one thing I will not do, it should not go on a septic system. Its whey is not good for a septic system. If I discard it, it's going to go in a flower bed or in the yard. People may use it to make dog food, or they feed it to their chickens and pigs and things like that. But it should not go in a septic system. So we're sitting at 124 degrees, and as you can see, those that was my timer. You can see those curds have really reduced in size. The bigger ones are a little squishier than the smaller ones. The smaller ones are pretty, well, they all feel about the same, I guess. Yep, got a little squeak when you chew it. Now, what I'm going to do is transfer all of the curd to one pot so that I can strain the whey into the other pot. Because like I said, I'm going to use this whey to make ricotta cheese. I don't want the curd to mat just yet, so I'm going to keep stirring it gently. Okay, so now I'm going to take this pot and set my colander in it and pour the curd in here. Now you want to work kind of quickly here because the curd is warm and it will knit together very nicely. If you let it get too cold, it's kind of hard for it to knit together. Okay, so now we will be taking this to the cheese press and we will begin the pressing stage of making cheese. So I'm going to take this out to the where I have the cheese press set up, and I'll see you out there in a few minutes. Okay, it is time to get this under the press. Okay, there's a little bit of weight here because of the mechanism itself. So, but it's not much. It's probably 5 to 8 pounds of pressure. And that's really all we want right now to start with. So we're going to let this press like this for about an hour, and then I'll come back and we will redress it, which means we will unwrap it from this cloth that it's sitting in. We will flip it, wrap it back up, and put it back under pressure. So we'll be back in about an hour. Okay, let's redress this cheese. It's still a little bit warm. Okay, I'm going to bring you down here so you can see it a little better. So it's starting to knit together. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to flip it. Just put it right back in cheese mold and under the press. Okay. So the bottom side has knitted together pretty good. You can see it because that's where all the pressure was, or the majority of the pressure was. That's the top side. That's the bottom side. I just push all that excess down in there, out of the way, so it stays clean. This time it's going to get 20 pounds of weight. So if I put this 5-pound weight right there, it's getting 20 pounds of pressure. I'm going to let that press for 3 hours like that. And then I will redress it again. I will flip it, put it back under pressure, and I will let it press all night. Smells good. Okay, good night. I'll see you back here in the morning. Okay, good morning. The Parmesan cheese has been under the cheese press all night. It's time to get it out and get it in the salt brine. So let's get going. Smells good. Oh yeah. Oh, it smells amazing. Oh, it looks so good. Okay, this is just a salt brine. And this is how we get our Parmesan salty. That's it. I'm going to put it in the prepper pantry because the temperature's a little bit warmer in there, and it's supposed to sit at room temperature to brine. So let's take it in the other room. While this Parmesan is taking its salty bath, I want to take a moment to show you what John's been working on. These beautiful handmade charcuterie boards.
They're perfect for serving up homemade cheese, cured meats, and all those things we love to munch on. He puts so much care into each one, and I have to say, they're just as much a work of art as they are functional. I can already picture this Parmesan, aged to perfection, sitting on one of these boards.
Good morning, this is Adrienne with Hamilton Homestead. I got up this morning and took the cheese out of the brine and kind of pat it dry with paper towels. And then I let it rest in this bamboo tray and dry for about a day. And then I will food saver label it and put it in my cheese cave. So this is the wheel that we made on Wednesday together. This is the wheel that I made yesterday, which should have been Thursday. And it came out of the press this morning and went into the brine. So tomorrow morning that comes out of the brine and it will go here to dry. And they will both eventually end up food savored and in the cheese cave. And they'll look much like this. This is a wheel of Romano. This is a larger wheel of Parmesan.
They say cheese is the original slow food, and Parmesan proves it. We won't get to taste this batch for at least 12 months. But that's part of what makes cheesemaking so special. Thank you so much for joining me on this adventure. I hope it's inspired you to try your hand at cheesemaking. Whether you're on a homestead or in a small kitchen, it's a great skill to add to your repertoire. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe for more homestead adventures and recipes and DIY projects. Your support means the world to us, and we love hearing from you. May you be blessed, stay grateful, and keep building a life you love.